elections, and our party was still new, and we came up with some, uh, uh, let me say, few nomination rules. But luckily, our party also is going for 2022 election, and we would like to have a strict and transparent and effective nomination rules this time around. Thank you very much, CMD, for inviting our party for this discussion. And we hope by the end of the day, we will have developed uh, a proper nomination rules. For this juncture, let me welcome Madam Odede to take over the program as we go on. So, in case of any issue, member, you just send me a chat or raise your hand. We will, all of us will discuss all these things. This platform is for all of us. It's not for specific people. So every member is free to share or raise any issue or anything that you need to have. We can add to our nomination rules. So I have Madam Odete will go through our previous nomination rules so that our members can understand what is going on. Otherwise, thank you, Maureen and CMD, for this opportunity. Am I clear? Maureen?
Yes, Bet, I can hear you clearly. Thank you
Maureen?
so much. Bet, if you can hear me.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. And
yes, I can hear you.
Let me now welcome Ms. Rosalyn Odede to take us through the document. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the CCM. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you this morning to discuss your nomination rules. But let me start by wishing you all a very blessed and successful year 2021. I know it's already a month down the year, but I haven't interacted with you the whole year. So it's an appropriate time to wish you all a very, very successful 2021. Clearly, I was still in 2020 when I was making this screen. Maureen, next slide, please. So in this meeting today, members, we are going to look through your nomination rules. And as we look through your nomination rules, I want this to be a very interactive process so that if there's any issue you have with the rules as we go along, kindly let's talk about it, let's discuss it, let's see what we would like to see in perfect nomination rules. Bet we may not actually develop the new rules here, but we will have enough material to enable the party to go back and redraft the rules. You have very, very clear and rules that are very, very clear, and they actually point out the basic route to follow. But in a contentious environment, they may not actually fit the bill because there's so much that's not provided for that leaves gaps for people to come in and seek clarification. So we will start off by looking at what party primaries are or what are critical to have in nomination rules. And then as we look at your rules, weigh it against the critical aspect of a nomination of nomination rules so that we see what more we can do with these rules to make them actually a lot more complete. So karibuni sana, this is an open session, as Bet has said. Feel free to interact. I want you to interact. This is your document. We are making it for us as a party, so let's interact with it, okay? And if you want to talk at any time, just kind of, as Bet says, raise up your hand or raise his attention, and we will give you the opportunity to go ahead and speak. So let's get this going. Oh, thanks, Maureen. Maureen, thank you so much for working on the slide, sharing the slides on my behalf. So what exactly are party primaries? Actually, nominations at the internal level are called primary elections. So primary elections are internal party processes that choose a political party's candidates for a general election by holding an internal election. So clearly it's an internal party process, and we are using it to select our candidates that will represent the party in the general election. Now, how this is done depends on what framework the party puts in place. But some of the rules are also guided by statute, like the Elections Act, the Political Parties Act, and the constitutional framework. Because, for instance, you cannot vie for governor unless you meet the constitutional framework. So some of these procedures will also be guided by constitutional frameworks, statutory frameworks, and also majorly our internal party nomination rules. Now, what are the benefits of holding primary elections? Now, one of the greatest benefits of holding a primary election is that it ensures or assists the party to select the candidate, the one candidate that is most likely to win a general election. So it gauges the popularity of the person on the ground. And there's no party who wants to field a weak candidate. So the reason we do this is to ensure we get the person who is the most popular, so that we are able to lodge or manifest a very, very serious challenge on other political parties' candidates. The other reason we have party primaries is because it initiates the democratic process. It's a window to the pathway to democracy. If political parties do not hold free, fair, democratic, and verifiable party primaries, then we are already compromising democracy in the entire country. How are we doing this? It is because you're already putting on the ballot paper a compromised candidate. So the people who elected, who participated in your party primary already feel marginalized by the democratic system. And they may at times vote an opposition candidate just to make you feel bad as a party because democracy was not reflected internally. So this is very, very important because it initiates a democratic process, and it is therefore important that parties get the democratic process that party primaries is right. It is the window to democracy for the whole country. And then party primaries give the candidate, the elected aspirant, who is called now the candidate, a clear mandate and legitimacy. This is because the person is now elected by the people. It's elected by the people and not by a few select party officials. So the fact that he's elected by the people to represent the party gives him that legitimacy. He's no longer an imposed person on the people. He has the people's mandate, and therefore support will also come very, very easily. The other benefit of holding party primary elections is that it gives a party some form of visibility. Now, when a political party is holding its primary elections, the whole country is looking, the whole country is watching. And everybody then gets to know, one, that this party exists, which is a good thing. Secondly, there are many people who are undecided on the ground which political party to go to. There are many people who don't belong actually to any political party. So when a party carries out credible primaries, then it might, through that visibility, even get itself more members and more supporters. So it's very, very useful for giving, it's a platform for visibility for the party. Then the other benefit of primaries is that it empowers the ordinary members of the party to engage in party strategy and key decision making. The key decision making here is determining who will be the face of the party in the national arena. So this is a very important role that the ordinary member plays, and it gives them the feeling that we actually are important to this party. The party listens to us. The party needs us. So it's a very important tool for making ordinary members feel the ownership and residency within their parties. And then finally, and this may not be very popular with the leaders, but it helps the ordinary party members to overrule unpopular decisions of the party elites. There are parties, political parties that are under elite capture, and through a very credible primary election, the members are able to assert their voice. They're able to make their voices heard. So this is why we hold party primaries, and these are the benefits of party primaries. And this is why it is important to get the party primaries right. So that is it for the introductory part. Now let us look at critical aspects of nomination rules. What are the critical things you want to see in nomination rules? You may not have all of them, but this is just a basic structure, like a skeleton of what you would want to see. Rules can have a lot more. Some rules are very, very in-depth and cover so much ground, but at least make sure your nomination rules covers these few aspects. One, the rules must identify 3 key organs of the party, 3 key organs. And when we talk about these organs, you could have so many more organs in the party, but these 3 are key. And then you may call them different names, whatever names a party wants to give to them, you can. But we must have a governing body. We must have a body that gives overall direction to everything within the party. Some people call it an executive committee, some people call it a governing council, wherever the party is going to call it, but there must be a governing body. Then there must be an elections board. And that election board is, like in the country, I would say the equivalent of IBC. So you must have an elections board at party level. This is the body that will actually carry out the elections and do the functions of everything related to elections. And then, because they're elections, there are going to be disputes. Because it's a competition, not everybody will be content and happy with that outcome. So there are going to be challenges, there are going to be disputes. So we must have, again, another body, another organ that handles disputes. So it's a dispute resolution board, a dispute resolution tribunal, committee, whatever you're going to call it. But you're going to have a body that deals with disputes post the elections. So it's very critical and important to have these 3 organs in place. You can have very many more, but at least these 3 must be there. And then you can determine whether they are at national level or branch level, ward level. How far you devolve them, again, is an internal party decision, but they must at least exist. Now, when you have these organs, it is important to clearly state their functions and ensure that there is no ambiguity. So be very clear, because we don't want doubt. We don't want the National Elections Board doing something and then they're overruled by the governing body just because the rules were not clear as to the powers of each of the bodies. So make it very, very clear so that we know who can do what. If the National Elections Board only issues a certificate that you're the winner, but does not issue the nomination certificate, make it very clear. If the Elections Board can issue the nomination certificate, make it very clear, so that we know what are the functions and we ensure there are no gaps, there is no ambiguity. If there are timelines to filing a dispute, make it very clear. If there are grounds for filing a dispute and you want to put it there, make it very clear, although that is something you may not want to over-legislate in your nomination rules. But let us have their functions clearly defined. And then let it be clear who qualifies to sit in these bodies. Who qualifies? Are we going to put educational qualifications? Are we going to put membership qualifications? What are we going to put as the qualifications of people who sit in this body? Must they be members of our party? Those are things we have to think about. So yes, you must know who qualifies to sit there. And then who appoints them and how are they appointed? What is the process of appointment? Is it a selection? Is it by application? How do I come to be a member of that body? So that is also very critical to put in. Who appoints them? How are they appointed? Is it a transparent process? Is it a selection process? Let us know. Let the nomination rules be very clear so that an aspirant doesn't say, so-and-so's friend, so-and-so was instrumental in choosing and he's an aspirant and all these are his friends. We've got to be very clear about appointment and make it transparent so that there's no doubt as to the integrity of the members sitting in those boards. And then I think we must ensure that we meet the constitutional requirements on gender balance and inclusivity. Now, gender balance, we all know that 1/3 gender rule, everybody knows it. When it comes to inclusivity, people seem to forget. We have Article 54 of the Constitution that deals with rights of people living with disabilities. And it requires progressive attainment in everybody of at least up to 5% people with disabilities. So let us make inclusivity of like PAWDs very, very loud and clear in our documents. Then we have the marginalized and we have the minorities. Let us find a way of including these people in our documents, make provisions for gender balance and inclusivity. And then let us have separation of powers so that somebody who's a member of the governing body cannot be a member of the elections board or the district resolution board. And nobody can belong to more than one of these key organs, just so that we have separation of powers and they are able to work independently. They therefore will have independence. So great. Oh my goodness, did I write criminal aspects? That's supposed to be critical aspects of nomination rules. I totally apologize. Maureen, kindly correct that in your slides at the right time. Okay, so the other critical document is the, Maureen, I think you skipped a slide, the party register. Yes, the next slide. Okay, so party register. It is very important in nomination rules to make reference to the party register. We need to be clear as members of the party what makes and forms the party register. It has been a key problem, I think, for a lot of political parties to understand what is their party register, especially for the so-called bigger political parties. When it comes to election time, they don't even have a party register that they can rely on. So it's important in the nomination rules to define what our party register is, how many types of party registers we have. Do we just have the national party register, or do we have it all the way to polling station level? Do we have like a branch register? Do we have a ward register? Do we have a county register? Do we have a constituency register? Whatever types of registers we want to keep. And we could probably tie it in with national legislation and have them at county level, constituency level, ward level, and probably up to polling station, because that's we are going to conduct elections even at the polling station. So it could be important to have even a polling station register. And then there must be a clear indication of who has custody of this party register. And after the person has custody, how can I as a member access it to verify the contest? As an aspirant, am I allowed access to verify that the list is actually indicative of the real members of this party? And then we must also provide, therefore, who qualifies for registration of members. Of course, it's definitely in your party constitution, but it is also good to say here that this party register, the registration of members shall comply with the party constitution. That would be sufficient, but let us make indication of that in the nomination rules so that it's not in doubt who is in the party register. And then is there a period at which we close registration of members so that we can move into election mode? That needs to be known, so that that party register is a key document. That's where rigging starts, if you ask me. We can just exclude all the supporters of candidate X and leave the supporters of one person or disqualify them. So the party register is a key bone of contention and a very, very critical aspect for any nomination rules. Then the other thing that should be clear is the application for nomination process. Now, let me just backtrack a little. I did not see any reference to party register in your rules, and I think that's something you want to think about. Even going back to the organs, there is mention of organs, but there's no clear outline of the key organs, and there's no clear outline of how they are appointed or who qualifies. So maybe those are things we can be thinking about as we look at the rules later. And then now the other key thing is the application for nomination process. How does one apply to be nominated? And it is important to clearly say how one applies. Is there a form? If there's that form, who supplies it? Who provides it? Do I get it from the secretary? Do I get it from the National Elections Board? How do we get that form? And then you fill it. Is there any fee payable? And if there's any fee payable, are there some sort of reductions for special interest groups? And when I talk of special interest groups here, I'm talking about women, I'm talking about youth, I'm talking about people with disabilities, I'm talking about minorities and the marginalized. Is there some sort of fee reduction for this group of people to kind of encourage them to participate? So make it clear. If there's no reduction, make it clear so that we all know. Then who qualifies, and is there a vetting process for everyone who applies, or is it that just I apply and I will be on the list? That must be made clear. And is there any appeal process? Again, that must be clear. I think there's some sort of reference to that in the document, but it can do with some beefing up. Then we must also refer to the election process. What is the election process that we will go through as a party? So there are several types of party primaries, and we've got to know which ones we want to hold. And this must be clearly indicated. Then we must also indicate who may vote. Who may vote in this election. So it must be very clear that it's maybe their party members or at the polling station, wherever, it must be very clear. And then we must also provide for location of polling stations. How do we arrive at these polling stations? Is it by meeting the aspirants and agreeing on the best locations? Or is it decided by the National Elections Board unilaterally? Because again, this location polling stations is sometimes used to marginalize certain candidates. You can find there's only one polling station in my area of influence where my supporters are. Then my opponent has got like 10 polling stations so that his people are able to reach polling stations easily. While in my area where there's only 1 or 2 polling stations, people will find the distances too long and might say there's no point going, or the queues may be overwhelming and people may give up. So location of polling stations is also a rigging tool. And we've got to be very clear how we identify location of polling stations within the nomination rules. Then the security of the ballot. This involves the voting itself, the ballot boxes, the sealing of the ballot boxes, the ballot papers themselves. Where are they printed? Does it have any security features so that I cannot make my own and come and stuff them? And how do we ensure that the serialized ones are the only ones used and there's no stuffing of ballots? So this is very, very important, the security of the ballot. And then agents. Am I allowed to have agents? How many agents can I have per polling station? And how are agents going to be accredited? All that needs to be provided for. And then the voting hours. Is it 6 to 6? Is it 5 to 5? Or is it 6 to 5? Whatever, make it clear. And what if a polling station opens late? Do we compensate the hours lost, or is it gone? And things like that. What if voting is interrupted by chaos or otherwise, and we have to close the polling station? So we have to provide for all those issues, because sometimes you actually have to even close a polling station and transfer that party register to the hours. So clearly state the voting hours and what happens in the polling station. And then we've got to provide for how we count and how we declare results. Who can declare the result? Can the presiding officer declare the result at the polling station, or does he have to send it to the RO, to the returning officer at the county level to declare? We've got to be very clear what happens, how we count, who declares, who can be present when we are counting and declaring. All that needs to be catered for. And then, of course, the right of appeal. Can I appeal the decision or the outcome? And where can I appeal to? Within how much time should I appeal? All that should be catered for. And behind all this, as we're making all this rules, we have to think around how we are going as a party to achieve the gender balance and inclusivity that I talked about earlier. Then there's the funding of the special interest groups. We know that there's a political parties fund that goes to certain political parties. And it is a provision of law that at least 30% of these funds should be used to promote the candidature of people that fall in the special interest groups. So we've got to provide for funding of special interest groups. whether it is by application, whether it is every person who vies, who gets, whatever, we've got to make some sort of provision for it. And then we've got to make some provision that assure members that there's fairness in the entire process, of the credibility of the entire process, of the integrity of the entire process. So we've got to make certain provisions in there that make us feel, and indeed, this is going to be a credible process. And then, of course, the issue of the result slip and nomination certificates, who issues them, and who are the authorized signatories. I've had several instances where we are told that somebody took the certificate, ran away, got a signature as you are still counting on the ground. You know, some things that happen in politics are interesting. So we've got to be very clear who are authorized signatories and when can they sign? Do they have to wait until they get communication from the returning officer before they can sign any nomination certificate? So let us make those clear so that we are not in doubt even within ourselves. Then the other critical aspect is to make a reference to the dispute resolution body, whatever we are going to refer to it as, whether it's a board, a committee, a tribunal. We must make some provisions for it. So one of the things is, do we devolve it or not? I've had a lot of complaints from people when they all have to run to Nairobi to try and meet the dispute resolution body for political parties. And it's normally like a mad rush because timelines are normally very strict at around that time. IBC processes are continuing. Timelines for giving the list to IBC are rolling. You want to have time to appeal to the High Court. So devolving the IDRB might be a very good idea so that we can do this on the ground and cases can be decided at county level and very, very quickly. Even at sub-county level, it's a possibility. Probably it's the cost of it that deters political parties from doing this, but you could probably charge a fee that part of which is paid to the sitting tribunal, so that the tribunal is only paid per sitting. And then there's also then you have to provide for what is the cost of filing an appeal, a dispute before the board. What is the cost? What fees must I pay? And make it very clear, and also do not make it a deterrent, make it affordable. Then what is my right of appeal and our other process? Who may appeal? Does it have to be the aspirant themselves, or can just a member of the party also appeal? We've got to know. Because you could find an instance where the person who lost doesn't feel like appealing, but a member of the party feels like, no, this certificate has not gone to the right person. I want to appeal. May that person appeal? I don't know. You need to provide for that. Procedure of appealing, do I just write a letter? Is there a particular form to fill? Is there a particular format? And do I need to have any witnesses? Whatever. What is the procedure for appeal? And then does the election board have an obligation to provide records? Here I'm talking about the process that went on at the primary election. There's normally the forms that were filled by the election officers, and we need to have these before the tribunal for the tribunals to assess. Is there an obligation on the election body to provide those records? Because sometimes the aspirant is not able to access those records immediately from every branch. And then what are the timelines for instituting a dispute? 24 hours, 48 hours, what is the timeline? And then does the dispute resolution body have an obligation to make their decision known in writing and make their decision reasoned? Or can they just say allowed, dismissed, what process do we want? It's normally nice to have a reasoned decision so that when I move forward to the political parties tribunal or the High Court, I have something on which to base my appeal to the High Court. So it's important probably to say that there's a written reasoned decision from the tribunal. Then how quickly can I access the proceedings? Because also timelines to approach the High Court and the political parties tribunal is normally very tight. And then I think there must be a clear undertaking by political parties to honor the outcome of the dispute resolution or the political parties tribunal or the High Court. There have been instances where people say they have approached the courts, they have gotten favorable honors, But by the time they go to their political parties, they are told, no, we've already submitted the list to IBC, now umechelewa. Or they just dilly-dally around you and they don't accept it. So we need to have a clear undertaking that the outcomes of any appeal processes will be honored by the party. And then we need to provide for alternative dispute resolution. This is where candidates, for instance, aspirants may come together and agree to have a compromise candidate at times. So those are alternate dispute resolution systems through mediation, conciliation, and consultation. We could have disputes resolved. So again, do we want to provide for that? Is it allowed? We need to make that very, very clear. And finally, in nomination rules, we must provide for offenses and punishment for people who actually do the wrong thing. And this is important to make sure that the offenses are not only for the party primary day, the election day. Sorry. Elections are a process, not an event. And it starts from the day that we call for nominations. So the offenses must cover the entire period from the time we call for nominations up to the time the appeal process is concluded. So offenses and punishment should be provided for, and they must relate to election officials, which includes the National Election Board. It must include aspirants, it must include party members, it must include supporters. So all those people might find themselves involved in offenses. And then we must also provide for obligations of aspirants and candidates, which normally actually is provided for in the code of conduct which aspirants sign. So you could just have a rule saying aspirants shall sign up to the party code of conduct. And in that code of conduct, you have all the obligations you want them to align to. So those are the critical aspects of nomination rules. I'll take a brief pause there. If there's any intervention, comment, or otherwise, I would like to listen to that now. Beth?
Hello.
Beth, are you on board?
Hello.
Yes, someone is speaking.
Come back in for the last sentence. Odete.
Yes.
Odete. Kindly come up again on that last sentence you said.
I just said, is Bet on board so that he can take us through any interventions on that part that I've just covered? Bet, are you present? Is Bet present so that
The
he
last
can...
sentence.
Obligation of aspirants and candidates. Hello? I just dealt with the obligation of aspirants and candidates. Aspirants and candidates must sign up. Aspirants and candidates must sign up to be obedient to certain obligations that the party set. And I say that most parties normally just have a code of conduct that they require aspirants and candidates to sign. So this code of conduct has all the obligations expected of the aspirants and candidates, so that in the nomination rules, you can just state that all aspirants shall be required to sign the code of conduct, which must be witnessed by probably a commissioner of oaths or another party member.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is it for that part.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Code of conduct.
Can I?
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Maureen, there's a lot of interference. Kuna mali, kuna mtoto analia. If you can mute. Hello?
Yes.
is Bet here with us? Maureen, is Bet present? If you can just take us through a short, brief interventions on that introductory part.
I think Roslyn, he's the one who's speaking.
Oh, okay. So if you can go ahead.
But if you can hear me. Hello. Okay, I think he does not get us. And I'm
Maureen,
sure. Yes, Bet.
Albert
There's
here,
noise.
Albert.
Oh, Albert. I'm going to kindly request Bet that you mute your mic so that we can hear Albert speak. Kindly.
Hello. Hello.
Maureen. Hello.
I'm going to
Hello.
kindly request that we mute our mics, please, as we give Albert Koche a chance to intervene at this point before we move on. Bet, if you can hear me, please mute your mic.
Hello.
Yes, Albert, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Roslyn. I have some few thoughts that I thought you could give us some guidance.
Yes.
We've as a party, we've had an opportunity to be involved in the ongoing by-elections.
Yes.
And I witnessed one or two challenges. One is the whole aspect of party hopping. The party hopping.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and in particular, you may want to educate our members in terms of the whole aspect of party hopping, especially as by the law, the legal timelines. The other one is because we witnessed in one of the electoral areas whereby there was a gentleman who wanted to vie, but was not a registered voter. And when he went to IBC, he was told that during the at least as by the law, there is no voter registration during the active election process. So I thought again you need to give clarity in terms of registration during voter registration during the active political process. The last one is the whole aspect of independent candidates. And I know even as we go towards election, we are going to reap a lot of candidates to fill in from the governor all the way to the ward. And I know many people would want to, because the law is very clear in terms of the period at which you are independent, and at what state can you be able to jump ship. So I thought you can again educate us in terms of independent candidates, because I know majority of the people would want to get in. Want to get in to the party primaries, but again, others could be partyless. I don't know whether I'm clear. Hello, Maureen.
I hear
Maureen.
you, Albert. It's just that there's so much noise in the background.
Yeah, it come from who? Is it bed? Is it bed?
Yes, it's coming from Bet, and let me try and get him on phone.
Yes.
Because we're trying to mute him, and again he unmutes. So let me just try and talk to him.
Okay.
Yes, but in the meantime, I think we can move forward.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think. Sorry.
Go ahead, Albert.
So thank you. That is what I wanted to say. Yeah, thank you. That's what I wanted to. So I mean, I've seen some people are saying that I was not clear. So I wanted you to clarify the issue of party hopping. The other one is independent candidates. So at what stage can somebody join our party, especially those who are aspirant, in terms of being partyless? So I didn't just play around the what you call the timings, the ORPP timings, the timelines.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hear someone else. Yes, someone else?
Hello? Hello, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, madam.
Yes, I thank you so much. And
Kindly remind me your name.
my name is Honorable Rahab Kenana from Narok County.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, my question is that in the recent days, there have been a lot of issues going on around nominations and around election processes. One of the issues is about the gender issues, whereby people everybody going to the ballot without a normal nomination process. And another one is the qualification. Uh, 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 what is our direction as a party with what is currently ongoing? And another issue is,
Rahab, just repeat that. It wasn't so clear.
I'm saying in the recent political arena, there have been several discussions around nominations. And one of the issues that was emerging is that everybody will go to the ballot. And then based on the primary results, then there will be, women will go to the ballot because I think they want to raise the dignity or the processes of nominating people. And another issue is about having degrees as minimum, especially with the county assembly level. Where are we as a party on that one? How prepared are we, or what? Because I didn't hear you mention those specifics.
Okay. I just wish that person would mute because the interference is really loud. Let me try and take the questions that I have. And if I may say at this point that some of the issues are still going to come up when we go into your rules, like the qualifications and stuff are going to come up in your rules. But let me start with the questions around party hopping and independent candidates. I have to check the exact number of days, but I think it is, you ought to have been, I think it is 30 days, but I've got to check. Not been a member of that party for at least 30 days. But I'll check. By the time we're done with this meeting, I'll give you the exact number of days.
No, let me help you on that.
Yes, yes.
It is normally 3 months. You must
90
be
days.
an party member for 3 months. But normally, the registrar of political party doesn't see that, because most of the aspirant, sometimes they go astray, and in fact they even leave the party that they were. And we remember so many things has happened just recently when somebody just jumped from another party. The next day he or she is cleared by the registrar of political party, then she runs independently. So those things happen. In fact, it is the mess of the registrar of political party to do their part. But normally, according to the law, it requires somebody to be out of any political party for a period of 3 months, which is 90 days.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
My name is Charles Bilali.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks for that input. Thank you. Now, the reason I was unclear is because I was thinking, but I've seen people jump ship like very, very close to an election. So I was really doubting whether it was 90 days or 30 days. So it's a very interesting thing. But I think the 90 days is for joining another party. What about becoming an independent? Because at the last election, we saw many aspirants who are dejected becoming independent. I'll look up that as well. By the time we are done, I will give you the answer. I have my researchers looking at it just now. As for registration during election, there is no registration of voters during election. That cannot happen. We must have a defined time when the registers are closed, and now we are in election process. So there's no registration of voters during an election process. I hope that answers you, Agri. And then Honorable Kimama is asking, I think the issues you're raising, Honorable Kimama, are issues that are in the proposed BBI draft. And I don't really want us to be persuaded to discuss what is in a draft that we are not even sure is going to go to a referendum. But anyway, you raise the issue of women being the ones, nomination of women to the elections will be given on the strength of the vote one got in elections, which means that one needs to participate in an election. I do not think it would be proper to provide for that in the nomination rules now, unless we get to the stage where the draft constitutional amendment has passed. Then at that point, clearly we'll have to change our rules regarding party lists. Then at that point, we will have to change our rules relating to party lists. So, and the one thing I noticed is I think your current nomination rules do not provide for nomination to party lists. So that's already a gap in your rules. So there's room to improve it. And I think there is no harm in a party providing for itself that we will only nominate those who show interest in elective posts. So that because I think that is also evidence of commitment, that I'm able to face the challenge. These people did not elect me because we were two, not because I was bad, but because we were two and there must be just one winner. And therefore, I deserve nomination more than a party member who just sits on the sidelines, does not spend any money on campaigns, does not spend any money on nomination fees, and finds their way nominated year after year after year. There are people who are nominated this electoral cycle and the next electoral cycle, while there are people who keep campaigning and do not make it and never get nominated. So it's not a very bad provision, and a party can decide to adopt it. And I will leave it to your party to have in-house meetings and determine the way forward as far as that is concerned. The issue of having a degree is a matter that has been debated for quite a while. People keep bringing it up. I'm not sure it will see the light of day, but it just might, because of the increased interest and competition that's coming up for this post. And one thing I keep telling people that it's not very hard to have a degree today. It's something that people need to start aspiring towards, but then again, it's a barrier to leadership because leadership is not paper qualification. So again, it's out there in the field and it's up to the party to decide, but it has not yet become law, so there's no need to panic about it at this stage. Okay, so can we move on, or is there any other question?
Maybe a quick one, Roslyn.
Yes.
I was looking at the introduction and the presentation you have made. It provides a lot of clarity in terms of how parties are supposed to conduct their nomination. But if you can be able to compare with what normally happens on the ground, ile watu husema ground itakuwa ground tofauti. It is not as clear as they are. So what I wanted to know is that whether there is any relationship between the party nominations, or if there is any connecting point between the party nomination and the Elections Act. Is there any way that the party nomination, if there is any infringement of the party nomination, can it be challenged using the Election Act? Because if it is the basis, as you clearly put it, if it is the basis of democracy, it starts from the party nomination exercise. Is there any way that we can enforce so that we ensure that there is a clarity in nomination? And finally, is there a standard format of nomination that cuts across all the parties? Maybe an extract from the Election Act or something of that kind, so that it is not different on how different political parties does, but it.
Okay, so thank you for that. Now, let me start by saying parties are governed, one, by its constitution, and two, by its rules and regulations, and then three, by its practices. And parties do not work in a lacuna. They operate under the provisions of law and statute. So they operate under the Political Parties Act, the Elections Act, and the Constitution. So there are certain basic principles that are imperative that a party has in place. And it is up to the members to ensure compliance. If your party is cutting corners and you do not litigate against your party, you're entrenching practices that will encourage the party to continue doing the wrong thing. So you will find that people are reluctant to challenge their political parties just because of the way our political parties are structured. Our political parties are structured around individuals and around influence and power. So if you go to court, you will just be sidelined and shunned by the party. So I think people are reluctant to kind of challenge their parties to do the right thing. But there's no way we can change things on the ground if we do not take our parties on. It is up to the members of the party to ensure that their parties do the right thing. And the only way by doing this is making your voices heard, either during the national delegates meeting, your convention meeting, or in whatever other spaces the parties give you to speak. So I expect that the members of the party are the ones who hold their leaders to account. Because we have beautiful documents. If you look at some of the nomination rules for certain political parties, they are fantastic. But when you look at the ground and you see or hear what happens, it's so different. There's such a big disparity between the written letter and the action in the party. But who lets that happen? It is us, the party members. So we have to hold our party to account. And we have to hold them to account by just reading to them the spirit and letter of the law. And I don't quite blame political parties. It's almost the same even with the Kenyan country, where we see a lot of impunity. We see a lot of things going wrong. But who holds the leadership to account? No one. There's attempts here and there, it's sporadic, but the impunity is so hard. So sometimes we'll make all these provisions just so that we have a cushion, but we need to kind of find a way of ensuring that there's compliance at a sufficient level. And therefore, I will just say that the clarity is there, the provisions are there. You don't want to get your political party deregistered, but there are provisions for even deregistration of political parties that fail to do certain things. But of course, again, I don't think you want your party deregistered. So how can we have internal processes that ensure sufficient checks and balances without affecting the party at the national arena? And then there's no standard format for nomination rules in any of the statutes, but there are basic provisions on what parties must do. And so some of these are looked at by the ORPP. And as somebody said earlier, the Register of Political Parties is also a letdown because they let political parties get away with a lot of things that are illegal, irregular, and are not allowed by law. So the Register of Political Parties is also one office that needs to be empowered to be able to exercise its statutory duty with independence. But we can see that it is always manipulated, especially by the bigger parties, it's manipulated, or even by individuals who have a little cash. They go in and they strike out that I've never been a member of this political party and they get to run as a member of another political party. So a lot of this rot is the rot in our country, and we've got a long way to walk to get ourselves back on track. That is what I would say at that point.
Okay. Okay, Maureen. Maureen?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Okay, there's something Nane raised, Pilali raised about the nominations of people who are fined for certain social acts, for example, MCA or MP.
Sorry, repeat that, please. But
I remember in 2017, campaign looking for some. In 2017, we wanted to nominate some people who were our candidates at that time. So we could not nominate them because already we had submitted their names as candidates, and we could not submit them as nominated people or in our party list. We cannot put them in our party list because already they are candidates. So I think the Political Parties Act has some loopholes which we need to rectify before 2022. Because we find that we might nominate people who doesn't have any interest or who doesn't participate in any political party activity. They don't add any value to our party.
But why do you nominate
So I think the party list, we need to, you see, we nominated because during the election, during that campaign, already we submit the party list during that period of campaigns. So we cannot submit somebody who is a candidate at that period.
But you can submit
until
the
he or she
aspirant.
loses that seat.
You can submit aspirant.
Even when you submit as an aspirant. Yeah,
no,
but you cannot submit during that period. You see, we submit. You see what's happening, Odete? We submit the party list plus the candidate at the same time.
Yes, that I know.
Are you getting the point?
Yes, that one I know.
Yeah, also we submit the party list and the candidate.
So what you're saying is you cannot be a candidate and are nominated on the party list as well.
Yes. Yes.
And I think there are moves
so
to amend that part of the law. I think the amendment is pending.
Yeah. Yeah,
that
because you can find somebody who was number 2. Yeah, maybe somebody became number 2 with a difference of 10 votes only.
Yes, true.
So I think we need to amend the political party so that we can the party list can be amended after the election.
Yes, but yeah, you're right. You're very, very right on that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to your nomination rules.
I think we need to do something.
Okay, let us now look at your nomination rules.
What I wanted to add on our nomination rules, you read something on a code of conduct. Hello?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, we have the code of conduct. Yeah, we have the code of conduct. Each candidate must sign and be approved by commissioner of votes. So we have that one. Unless we need to add something. I don't know whether we can. Let me send to Maureen to share on the screen.
Well,
okay?
those were just critical aspects that I was raising that need to be in rules. I was not saying you don't have them. Now I want to go through your nomination rules. And as we go now through your nomination rules, we will be identifying areas where we have gaps. And where we have something, it is fine. So let's now try now and go through your
and where we can improve.
Yes, Beth.
Thank you.
Yeah, so now that was just an introduction, which is generally and it's not for Mashinani only, but now we are talking now about your nomination rules, which are the rules you used in 2017, I believe. And I don't know if you want to update them for 2022, because I can see that the election cycle has started. Okay. So CCM nomination rule. I don't know how well advertised these rules are to your members, but let's just go through them. Some might be seeing them today. Now, the rules are cited as the Chama Mashinani nomination rules. They are said to govern the nomination of party candidates in respect of any elections or by-elections to be held in Kenya, and that all candidates must sign and honor the pledge of commitment. So I'll be showing you that Form 1 later, which forms the pledge of commitment. Now, National Elections Committee and nomination. Now, we find here a mention of National Elections Committee. And then in this part, we talk about a National Elections Board. We get here without defining what is the National Elections Board, who is the membership, how big is the membership, how long do they stay in office, what is their term of office, can they be elected, how are they appointed? So I found that to be a gap because we just go into the National Elections Board, but where does this board come from? Who are they? Where are they initiated? So those are the gaps I think I feel at that stage. So we are talking about a National Elections Board, which before the commencement of the nomination procedure, publish the rules and procedures that shall guide the nomination of all party candidates. Now, again, the question here is publish it where and how, and publish it to who. So can we note those gaps? Where do we publish these rules and to who shall this be published? And then the respective executive committees. Now, these executive committees, which ones are they? There needs to be clarity. Who are the executive committees? And it actually talks of committees. It's not one, it's more than one. So which is this executive committee and where are they located? Who are the members? We've got to be sure we know what we are dealing with. Because maybe it's an executive committee formed by the National Elections Board. Is that the case? I doubt so. But anyway, we've got to be certain about that. So the respective executive committees shall, before the commencement of nomination procedures and under the direction of the Elections Board, conduct nomination and election at polling center, ward, constituency, and county level, according to the established procedures set out by the board. Yes, so we've gone so far. We are actually committing some committee, which we do not even know who they are, to conduct elections. But we have not even talked about those elections. So we've got to have some sort of clarity around that. How does this happen? And then it says the board shall set a timetable for nomination. So that up to there are my comments on that. And then we talked about the election board shall appoint officials or agents to assist the committee in conducting the nomination of party candidates. So I am confused here because we are talking about a national elections board, which shall publish the rules. Then we talk about the board appointing officials to assist the committee. Which committee? It is not clear what the committee we are referring to is. So again, clarity is needed, and that's why it's important at the outset to set out the organs. And then the organs, if they are there, what entities can they form? If the National Election Board has the power to set up executive committees, it should be clear where the executive committees are located, who are the members, how the membership is constituted. So again, we see assist the committee, but we do not know who is this committee. Where does this committee come from? So clarity. Then voting for the nomination of party candidates shall be by secret ballot or any other agreeable method as approved by NEB on the basis of a simple majority. Only registered voters shall participate. That is fine. Then we go to nomination of candidates for parliamentary and county government elections. So it provides that any party members seeking nomination of the party in respect of national presidential, parliamentary, and county government elections shall submit to the National Election Board an application in writing in Form 3 with copies therefore to the branch. Such application shall be accompanied with evidence of party membership, national identity card, and registration as an elector. I think this is like a registration as a voter in Kenya. So this is fine, but I only had a question with myself around seeking nomination of the party in respect of national presidential, parliamentary, and county government. Now, is the county assembly part of the county government? I think we need to ask ourselves that, whether we are actually including the county assembly when we talk about county government elections. Because I know the county government is probably separate and distinct from the county assembly. And we need to make that clear. Then the National Election Board shall submit names of the applicants to the relevant branch election committee. So is there vetting before we submit? And is the governing body involved in actually seeing this list before we send it to the branches? We've got to ask ourselves those questions. And then the National Election Board shall determine nomination fees for candidates from time to time. I guess that's fair, although it would be nice to have an indication of the base fees, but I guess that's okay. Okay, then the next slide actually provides for a kind of qualification. No one shall be nominated unless they have a valid party membership card, an elector card, a national identity card, and is qualified to be a member of the post for which they're vying, and has paid the nomination fee in full. And I think that is fine. The only thing is it just a national identity card, or can a passport work as an identity? I know at the IBC, a passport is valid identification as well. And then the National Election Board shall set down the time and place of nomination of party candidates. Do they have a duty to advertise, gazette? And as we get to this point, is there a call for applications, or how do people get to apply? Is there a need to advertise? Because I know this is a legal requirement that you advertise in a paper of a popular newspaper, at least 2 popular newspapers, the vacancies, and then call for application. So is that part of our nomination rules or not? We've got to be clear. Then nomination of candidates, we are still on nomination of candidates. At the commencement of the nomination exercise, the applicant shall submit nomination papers duly completed in Form 4. So the Form 4 is part of the rules, which is very good, with the names, particular address, and signature of the proposer and seconder, and at least 10 supporters, all of whom shall be members and registered electors at the branch. So you need a proposer, you need a seconder, and just 10 supporters. And that's okay. Then the National Election Board shall ensure compliance with the provision. So they have a duty to check and then ensure. And if after the close of the receipt of nomination papers for any seat, there's only one applicant, it shall be declared the candidate. The person shall be unopposed and shall be declared the candidate. And then if after the close of the nominations, there are more than one candidate, an election will be held. The elections board will determine the number of delegates who shall participate in the nomination exercise. Now, this is a provision that just comes out of nowhere, because in the beginning, they said members of the party have the right to vote. Now we are hearing about number of delegates, and there's no provision around voting by delegates. And it's very dangerous to have a provision like this, which does not clearly set out how delegates will be identified, where the delegates come from. Is it from polling station all the way to the branch? So we need to be very, very clear around this Rule 17 and its intent and purpose, because we are suddenly hearing about delegates while we thought all party members who had a right to vote. At the close of the poll, the ballots shall be counted and the winner of the election declared nominated as the party candidate by the returning officers. So that is fine, but it doesn't clearly state how the poll moves from polling station level to the returning officer level. What is the role of the presiding officer? How does it transmit the results to the RO? We've got to be clear. After the poll, the election board shall prepare in triplicate and return prepare a duplicate and return of the election showing the results thereof, and thereafter send the original copy to the National Executive Committee. And the duplicate copy thereof shall be sent to the branch. The return shall be in Form 5. Again, yeah, okay, they will send that to the National Executive Committee. Again, an organ that has not been described. So we've got to know who we are dealing with. But they're probably described at the end of the document where we have definition. Then we have the National Elections Board shall prepare the party list in accordance with the provision of the Constitution. The list shall be presented to the National Executive Committee for ratification before they are forwarded to IBC. Now, how do we identify these members that go to the party list? We need to be clear. We need very, very clear provision on how we identify the party list. Is the NEB all powerful to just decide who goes to the party list? What if they put only their names and leave out others? There must be some sort of fairness around this process, and the rule must be clear in making provision around that. Okay, so when it comes to the presidential candidate, now they say that the presidential candidate shall be elected at a convention, at the Mashinani convention. I want to assume at this stage that the Mashinani convention is provided for in the Constitution. So then there must be reference here as provided for in our Constitution, rule number this or article this. So if it is provided for, let us make reference so that we know that it is not a new thing. And then we must know where the delegates are coming from, who appoints the delegates, how are delegates ratified, and how are they identified. Is it by application? Is it because they are branch officials? Does every branch nominate delegates? We've got to be clear. And hopefully those gaps are filled in your constitution and can just be referred. Now, the presidential candidate shall be required to complete nomination form and return the same to the National Elections Board within the specified time. He must be a Kenyan citizen by birth, be a registered voter in any constituency in Kenya, pay nomination fees, sign the party code of conduct, and be supported by at least 2,000 registered voters from 25 counties. Now, at this point, I ask myself the question, is it registered voters or are they also required to be members? Are they just voters? Because if they're registered voters, they can be from other political parties. So there's need for clarity around the 2,000 registered voters who are supporting the nomination of a presidential candidate for the party. Then they must not owe allegiance to a foreign state or another political party and must comply with Chapter 6. Now, those are statutory provisions and quite in order. Now, for the gubernatorial candidate, the National Election Board shall make an advertisement in the local daily to call for candidates to register for the CCM gubernatorial seat. The registration process shall take place within the 30 days. Registration shall be done at the National Secretariat in a prescribed form, accompanied by registration fees as determined. I don't know whether the registration to register, I don't know whether registration is the right word. Maybe it should be application. But again, it's just nomenclature, nothing serious. And then what are the qualifications for the candidate? It is a member of CCM. Now, this is also an interesting point. Some people insist, some political parties insist that candidates for governor, at least governor and president, be life members of the party. Are you just saying I can join the party today and be a presidential candidate without being a life member and committing to the party long term? Things we need to consider. So be a member of CCM, be a Kenyan citizen by birth, be a registered voter in the county he or she intends to vie for, be 18 years of age and above, be conversant with and subscribe to the party ideology, philosophy, mission, and values, and be qualified to stand in an election which he or she seeks. under the provisions of the law. So these are statutory provisions and cannot be contested. And then further, the person must sign the party code of conduct. This is as Beck was telling us, and abide by the party pledge of commitment. They must pay a nomination fee as prescribed, must be qualified to be a governor of a county, must sign the party code of conduct, again that is stated, abide by the party pledge of commitment, and be nominated by 3,000 duly registered voters from the county. Now I asked myself, why should the president have just 2,000 voters? If we can go back to that slide of the president, 2,000 voters. Okay, I get it. It's 2,000 voters from 25 counties. So each of the counties will get 2,000 voters. Okay, that makes sense. The governor will get 3,000 voters from the county. Again, there's no requirement here that the 3,000 be members of the party. So we've got to look at that again. And then not owe allegiance to a foreign state and to comply with Chapter 6. Now for senatorial candidates, one who wants to apply must meet the provisions of the CCM Constitution. It would be nice to say what these provisions of the Constitution are. Is it membership? What are we referring to as meeting the provisions of the Constitution? So let's have a little clarity there as well. And then the party shall advertise in the local daily, calling for candidates to register for the CCM senatorship exercise. The registration process shall take 30 days, and the registration for senator candidates shall be conducted at the National Secretariat in a prescribed form. So they must take their forms to the National Secretariat. The qualifications are statutory, apart from being a member of CCM. Again, we ask ourselves, is it an ordinary member? Must they have been a member for a particular time? We got to ask ourselves those questions, especially now that we've been a political party for a considerable length of time. Probably at the time we're making these rules, the party was young, and therefore provisions around life membership or having been a member for the last so long were not practicable. Must be a citizen of Kenya, must be a registered voter in the county in which he or she intends to contest, must be 18 years of age and above, conversant with the party ideology.
When they want to go for pasture, water,
Conversant with the party ideology.
the same applies to that is now in Darfur, which is also a member state of IGAD. The transhuman corridor has already initiated a committee was formed to develop this corridor. You know, for them, they move from north to south. Now, when in Gamia,
kindly mute.
So where they
Thank you. Be conversant with the party ideology, philosophy, mission, and values, and then must sign the party code of conduct and pledge of commitment. The candidate must also pay nomination fees, be qualified as per law, sign and be nominated by 3,000 duly registered voters from the county, not owe allegiance to a foreign state, and comply with Chapter 6. For the women rep candidate, one who wants to vie for this position shall be required to meet provisions of the CCM Constitution. And I repeat my comments, this needs to be clarified so that we are not in doubt as to which provisions of the Constitution we are making reference. Advertise in the local daily, again, that is a standard requirement. Process shall take 30 days and shall be delivered to the National Secretary. Candidates must be member of CCM, be a citizen of Kenya, a registered voter in the county, 18 years of age and above, pay the nomination fees, and sign the party code of conduct and abide by the party pledge of commitment. Qualified to be a candidate for the position of women's rep as per law, be nominated by at least 3,000 supporters, and not for allegiance. So you can see you also have some repetition in your document, because this is copied straight from your document. So where it's repeated, you need to go and tidy that up so that the repetitions are not included. For parliamentary candidates, they will be required to complete the nomination forms and return the same to the National Election Board within the specified time. Be a Kenyan citizen by birth. I'm not sure this by birth is a legal requirement, because we have people who are not Kenyan citizens who naturalized as Kenyan and are sitting in parliament. So just check out whether the by birth is a requirement or this is a requirement that CCM is setting, because you might be blocking out certain people who might be candidates on your ticket. So just check that out. Be a registered voter in any constituency in Kenya. Pay nomination fees as shall be determined by the National Election Board. Sign the party code of conduct and party pledge of commitment, and be nominated, supported by at least 2,000 registered voters. Again, let's define that the voters must be members of our party. Or here it is, who are also registered members of the party from the constitution. So if we can have that for the other positions as well, it will have covered that gap. And then must not owe allegiance to another state and must comply with Chapter 6. Now this part F, must not owe allegiance to a foreign state, is something also you may wish to rethink. Because in the constitution, it only applies to the president and probably the governor. But we know that Kenya now is a state where we are allowed to have dual citizenship. So when you put this, it could be a barrier to so many people, and yet it is not a statutory barrier. So you may wish to look at that and rethink it. Now, county assembly candidates. Each applicant for county assembly nomination in CCM shall be required to complete the nomination form and return the same to the National Election Board within the specified time. Be a Kenyan citizen by birth. Again, let's look that up and let's be consistent with statute. Be a registered voter in the ward and pay nomination fees as shall be determined by the National Election Board. Sign the party code of conduct and be supported by at least 500 duly registered voters who are also registered members of the party from the ward. So at least here we got it right, but for the Senate, governor, we did not get that right, even for president. Or allegiance to a foreign state, at least take the comments I said earlier into account, whether this is a necessary provision, and then to comply with Chapter 6. Okay, so that is it for nomination on the party ticket. Then we have reference to appeal guidelines. The National Election Board, in consultation with the National Executive Committee, shall establish its rules for the purposes of dealing with appeals. Now, I'm a little confused here, because is it the Elections Board that deals with appeals, or is it the National Executive Committee that deals with appeals, or do we have an organ, which is an internal dispute resolution organ that deals with appeals? It's very critical that we have an organ other than the NEB or the NEC to do this. This is because of independence. The appeals are actually challenging actions of the National Election Board. So how do we put the National Election Board in charge of determining rules and procedures for the appeal? I think we've got to rethink that to a certain extent. Any member or contestant who is dissatisfied with the results of nominations shall appeal to the National Executive Council within 3 days. Now, this is not a desirable position. We cannot be appealing to the National Executive Council. The National Executive Council is an overall authority to whom a list of aspirants was held, consultations were held. It is ideal that we have a third organ, and this is my recommendation to your party, that you have a third organ known as an internal dispute body. And I think it's actually a requirement of law in the Elections Act that parties have an internal dispute resolution body to handle disputes. So I would actually appeal to you to reconsider this position, rethink it, and have an internal dispute resolution resolution body, independent of the National Executive Council and independent of the National Elections Board. So the National Executive Committee shall, after considering the appeal, confirm or reject the nomination, and where nomination is rejected, the nomination exercise shall be repeated. So we don't know whether the considering the appeal, it gives the person a right to fair hearing, whether it's a viva voce, whether it's a hearing that we appear, or the appeal is just considered on a table and we just get communication that your appeal has been rejected without reason or otherwise. So is it reasoned? Is it after a full hearing? Or is it just a consideration of papers at a table by a committee? We've got to be very, very clear about that in our rules. And then it says that the decision of the National Executive Committee shall be final. That is an illegal statement. The law provides for the right to appeal to the political parties tribunal and to appeal to even IEBC and to appeal to the High Court. So this clause D is not in tandem with the law. Now, nomination certificates to IEBC. The nomination certificates to IEBC shall be signed by the authorized party officials as designated by NEC. This is very, very vague and a channel for a lot of confusion and reading. We have to state here and now in the nomination rules who are the authorized party officials and how do they sign the certificate? Is it after receiving the list from the National Elections Board? And, or, you know, we've got to be much, much clearer than that. So that's my comment there. Now, that is it for the rules. Now we go to interpretations of terms, which are in the document. And there are very few. They define constitution to mean constitution of the party. Election official means elections and nominations board official or agent appointed by the party. Election and nomination board means election and nomination board established under the CCM party. National Governing Council, which was not even referred to in this document. Then they refer the party means Chama Mashinani, and the president means President of the Republic of Kenya. Wow, okay. We'll have to look at that in context, but yes. So that is it for interpretation, and those are the rules. And just looking at those rules, you can see that the critical aspects that we talked about are really lacking in this document. And we've got to do a lot of work to make it conform. Now let's just look at the pledge of commitment that is in the rules. The pledge of commitment is that the aspirant shall respect, defend, and safeguard the Constitution of Kenya and the party constitution, and pledge allegiance to both. That the aspirant shall be loyal to Kenya and the party. That the aspirant shall abide with the party's motto of freedom, justice, and truth, and shall support the party manifesto and programs and undertake to work for the realization. That the aspirant believes in the legislative supremacy of parliament, the independence of the judiciary, the rule of law, and the establishment of democratic institutions and processes. That the aspirant shall not conduct or participate in the, I think this was supposed to be torture. It's a spelling error there. Torture or the political suppression of another human being, and shall fully support the repeal and abrogation of the Preservation of Public Security Act and the Public Order Act. That the aspirant shall defend the respect and observance of human and democratic rights and liberties. I think that should be and we should just go back and look at that and correct the typo. That the aspirant shall accommodate criticism. Again, there's a spelling error in the document, which you need to go back and fix, and observe the principles of good and open governance. That the aspirant shall support free and fair elections within the party and in Kenya. That the aspirant shall oppose and never, never practice nepotism, clanism, or tribalism. and shall ensure that the allocation of jobs and services is based on merit. That the aspirant shall oppose and never practice corruption. That the aspirant shall be transparent in all business transactions and never allow personal interest to prevail. I think they should be over public interest, not upon, prevail over public interest. That the aspirant shall defend and protect public property, assets, and investment, irrespective of whoever is involved in the business. So again, a spelling error at number 12 that needs to be amended. That the aspirant shall never practice discrimination against anyone on the basis of race, tribe, color, gender, disability, or religion. That the aspirant swears the pledge on the understanding that they may be disqualified or required to resign from leadership if they contravene the pledge of commitment. So that is the party's pledge of commitment, very powerful, and I think very, very broad in terms and very useful, and something that should be commended. I commend you for it. Then the nomination certificate copy is also provided for there. And it says this is to certify that so and so of ID number has been nominated by the CCM to contest in the forthcoming elections. And then it says sign, and there are three options there: party chairperson, secretary general, or chair, National Election Board. Now, what I don't know is whether all three must sign, because that is what the draft document says. And if all three must sign, then it must be clear. And I think it is very dangerous to have party chair or vice chair. That is where people start running around and getting their favorites to sign for them. So it should be very, very clear it's the party chairperson. And if something happens at that point that the party chairperson is unable to sign, then I think quick rules should be made at that point to say the party chairperson is indisposed and cannot sign, and therefore in this instance we will waive that requirement or something. But to have that it's either the party chairperson or the deputy, you find people running around looking for the one who is their friend to sign their document while I am waiting for the official one. So let's get that very, very clear, authorized signatories, and let them not be many. Let them be just like two and very clear. Party chair, a secretary general, good enough. And let now the National Election Board chair sign the compliance certificate, which he forwards to the executive committee to issue a nomination certificate signed by the SG and chairperson, and that makes it very easy. Application for nomination, we referred to this form earlier, and it is part of the document, and those are the details it requires from you: your name, your address, your date of birth, your marital status, which I don't know why is important, party membership card number, your elector's number, your national identity card number, location, sub-branch, and branch. I would probably, instead of marital status, probably just ask for gender, because why should my marital status be important? But anyway. Then the seat you're applying for, then a written statement. Now this is like showing why you should be elected. So the details of your education, occupation, nature of past occupation, why you joined the party, and your understanding of the philosophy and political beliefs of the party. And then an outline of the aims and objects of the party, and whether objects of Chama, Mashinani is the right party, and what you think should be the party's priorities. So this is like a motivation document. You're like showing that you understand the party, you subscribe to the party ideals, and therefore you're an ideal candidate. And then nomination papers, these are the other papers that you need to fill. So you will write there the candidate, what you're applying for, your address, your identity card number. But this, I think, yeah, and then the proposer must sign, and a seconder. Yeah, there's a space for a seconder on the second slide. So the proposer, and then on page 2, you need your seconder to also put in there. So those are nomination papers that accompanies your application form. And then election results form is also part of the document. It's given there. This is signed by the chair of the National Elections Board. And this is what I was saying. Let the chair sign this, hand it to the National Elections Executive Committee, now issue a nomination certificate. So that we are very, very clear who issues the nomination certificate, who does what, clarity of roles, independence of officers, and very, very clear direction forward. Members of CCM, that's the end of my presentation for you this morning. And Bet, I hand it back to you to moderate the next part of the set of the program. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Madam Odete. Thank you very much, Maureen. We have enjoyed the presentation. What I'll just put across on the members is this is now maybe you can have, if you have any issue, just raise up your hand, or any additional comment, you can just raise up your hand. I think we still have some few minutes to end our session. So if you have any question, you can just raise up your hand, and I think Madam Odede is there for any clarity. Hello? Maureen?
Bet,
Yes.
Bet, if you can hear me,
Yes.
I can see we have Rehab's hand up, and then Kipchumba, and then Johnston Kotut. The hands are up. Maybe they
Okay.
can go in that order.
Okay. Rahab, kindly unmute your mic.
Oh, sorry. I had done it before, so I didn't put it down. And I had earlier asked my question, but I will also take an opportunity to raise some of the issues. Now that we are going for elections, I am one of the ladies and who is also a legislator in the Narok County Assembly. One of the issues we need to start thinking as a party is how we can move forward to even start encouraging our women to stand up. Like we have, if the party can take a role of looking for those organizations that hold the women aspirants, because we know that elections are quite expensive. And if we want to win as a party, we need to start preparing by becoming very visible on the ground. And as you know, and how Kenya is, nominations do not have any kind of slots at the county government. We are actually, we are just even hoping that the issue of giving dignity to nominations will come through the BBI, because we are given a lot of names. But I think we need to start as a party, whether if we have our ladies that are standing, how can we help them now so that they can have visibility, so that they can also be encouraged to stand? We have those who are but we also have what others saying. I'm also very happy that we should not meet during elections. We need to, because you are in your organization. I will also ask you as a party, let us see if we have organizations doing capacity building so that we strengthen our party. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Rahab. I think we can take around 3 comments before I give to Odette. Just on Kotut, kindly unmute your mic.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes, thank you, sir. First, I want to take this opportunity to thank Madam Roslin for a very good presentation. I agree with that on some issues, like the issue of citizens by birth. We have an example here, even in that issue, where we have an MP who does not meet that criteria. He's already a member of parliament. I think that is an area that we need to address. There's also the issue of
Johnston, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Kindly speak to your mic. We've not heard what you've said. Please repeat.
Okay. I was saying I want to take this opportunity to thank Roslyn for a very good presentation. And then I said I agreed with her with some issues that she raised, like the one for qualification of a member of parliament being a citizen by birth. And I was giving an example of was in Gishu County, where we have a member of parliament who is not a citizen by birth. So I think that is an area that we need to address. There's also another issue of nomination. There were several issues which were made in reference to National Election Board, the decision to be made by National Election Board. And I think we may need to consider that the decision which is going to be made by a National Election Board, but as approved by the National Executive Council, so that there is that link between the National Election Board and the National Executive Council. The other thing is, there was a provision which referred to the voting shall be by secret ballot or any other means agreed by the parties. So you see the provision, earlier it says the voting shall be by secret ballot. So if you have already said shall be by secret ballot, then you're opening that it is any other means agreed to members. So I agree with Roslyn. We as a party need to relook at our the nomination rules that we have already presented. And my appeal or my request is if we will be able to be given, if she will be able to give us feedback in written, so that now we can sit down as a party and work on the areas that she proposed that we need to address. Otherwise, I really appreciate this has been a very informative session. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Marie.
Is anyone talking, or is it only my side quiet?
Roslyn?
Yes, but I couldn't hear anyone. Yes, now I can hear you.
It's now back to you. And then
No,
you have had the comments and the questions that.
Can we take a few more? Because most of them are comments. So far, most of them are just comments. So I saw Emmy Chepkemoi asking how to raise her hand. She had something to say, but doesn't know how to raise her hand. You may wish to consider her.
Okay, thank you so much, Roslyn. Thank you for the comments. At least we've taken note on something. We've noted a lot of issues to raise and to rectify in our nomination rules. So my issue was the issue of nomination. Actually, I think the management of nomination in Kenya is a whole thing that needs to be looked at, because I think it's hard not to crack. There have been issues surrounding nominations, and I was suggesting in future, maybe this issue of nomination can be handled by political parties, IEBC or CMD, or better management, I don't know. But having said that, I thank all the members here, and thank God because our Director General, the elections co-chair is here, and maybe is going to take some few issues to note in our party. The issue of party register and the fact that only the nominated or the registered members are allowed to nominate. How do we then ensure that? Because I think our issue or our culture has been that if you have ID, like everybody is allowed to participate in nomination. So we've been having some issues where our competitors comes in, they infiltrate on our elections or nomination and ensure that our weak candidate is voted in and the strong one are voted out. So how do we then manage to do this? Another issue, how do we harmonize the aspirants after nomination? For those who are having complaints, to ensure that we all work together so that we don't lose strong candidates or votes in that direction. Another issue, the election board. Who works towards the realization of the free and fair nomination in terms of the election board and the nomination. Is there any transparency? I think as a party, maybe we should have a way of ensuring that we nominate or we get the election boards who are well known, or the procedure is well known by all parties, so that we all agree on one direction before going to nomination. And the last one, how do we achieve the gender balance and inclusivity? As a party, maybe we should have a mechanism or a way to encourage our women, even if it means poaching them individually, so that many of them participate in the nomination process and be known that the party actually supports them, both financially and everything that comes with nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Am I actually left anyone? Madam Rosalie?
Can I say something?
Maureen? Yes.
Mr. Bates, you are my friend, and I think
yes,
you're also letting me down. And when Rosaline Odede is here, as an international relations student or a political scientist, and as a member of the CCM, in fact, that document needs to be redrafted, because it seems as if somebody who drafted that document did not have skills and techniques on political processes. So I think we need to get a professional drafter so that we can relook. I can also offer myself without you paying me, so that we can draft something that when you look at that document, in fact, it comes from a well-minded, grounded political scientist. So please, Mr. Bates, next time, don't draft something like that. I think you can just pass through me, so that I can take it through, so that we can rectify some other areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Bates, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Winnie. I would first like to thank Rosalind for the eloquent way she has taken us through that document. And I think I'm also in agreement with Charles that a few things in our document need to go through the revolutionary process, because probably, like Rosalind said, we've had this document for quite a while, and we need to now bring it up to date, so that it talks to us. Most of what we have is statutory, but we can bring out the CCM spirit into the document, so that we make it domesticated to us and make it speak more of what our values talk about. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you, Winnie. Anyone else? Anyone who has a comment, a question? Anyone? Okay, I think now I can let me give a chance to Rosalind.
Okay, thank you, Bet. I would have liked to hear from the person in charge of your elections, the elections board, what their thoughts are around the nomination rules.
Okay, I think our chair for National Elections Board is not with us. And maybe once I can respond. Hello?
Hello, Bet.
Koche is not around. I think he has left. Yes. Hello?
Oh,
Amy, you're writing something?
Yeah, I thought Koche is still with us here.
Yeah.
He left. Okay.
I think he left. But
Mr.
what I
Bet,
can raise is, yes.
Mr. Bet, I think the way Rosalind is bringing it is that, you know, Koche is one of the key personnel on this draft. And he needed to be here so that we can also rectify some other issues so that he can be present and also give his mind. Maybe he had some other good ideas. So is there an assistant or a deputy to Koche, or it is you now?
Yeah, I think Koche requested to leave the meeting. I think he went for some other engagement somewhere. But for us, I've actually put it down the points that Rosalina has raised. So we have around very many points that you people have raised and comments. We have actually put it down, and we are going to amend the documents as you have requested. And number two, I think we are going to meet and discuss the way forward on this document.
Maybe, but just there was a request I had made to Roslyn and maybe
Actually,
Maureen.
this document was developed by some. Why we are now doing some amendments to it. Yes. Hello.
Hello, Bet.
Yes.
Hello. Koche is coming in right now. I think he's trying to log in.
Maybe as we wait for Koche.
In the meantime, I can see somebody who has raised the hand.
Hello, Bet.
Yes, how are you?
Yeah, I was making there's a request I had made to either Maureen or Roslyn.
Yeah.
If they can be able to share with us
Yes.
the same, maybe the same presentation or the document with some changes or proposed changes that we need to work on, so that we can just address some of those issues she has raised.
Okay, Maureen or Rosalind?
But if
Rosalind?
I can quickly interject on that. As just on as requested, yes, we will send in the presentation that we've shared today. I'll share with him the presentation. And then on the various points of corrections that have been noted out in the document, we'll also share with you a few points on the ones that need to be changed. That one we will share from our side.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Johnston, I think, is that okay? Katut, is that okay?
Yeah, that is very much okay, sir. Thank you so much, Maureen and Roslyn.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone want to raise a comment, a question? Kindly mute. Winnie, kindly mute. Winnie, kindly mute. Okay, as we wait for Koche, I was just saying this document was developed before the election, that is 2017 election. And actually, remember, this is the party was still new. And only we came up with those few guidelines on nominations. And we hope as we go ahead, that is to 2022 election, our document will be super as compared to other parties. Thank you, Rosaline, for your comments. And we are making a document to be the buffer. We will actually give you this job so that next time as we meet, you'll now be presenting on behalf of us what we actually amended on that document. So I think, Koche, are you with us?
Thank you, Ben.
Koche? Koche has not joined us.
Thank you, Ben,
Rosalind?
for recognizing that you have a drafter in the house.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, what I can say at this point is that the purpose of this meeting today was to recognize the need to update the document, which I think we have succeeded in doing. And I think it is good that within us, we have the skills to get this document updated. And Charles, thanks for offering to lead the path, and I hope the party will take your suggestion up. But what I would say is make sure the process of developing the rules is very participatory, so that we include people, hear their voices, and make sure that the rules are in consonance with what members want to see, resonate with what members want to have as their rules, because the rules are governing activities that affect them. So let's make it very participatory, so that we could probably have a broad outline and bring people in to suggest what they want, and then we come to consensus, and then we have rules that can work for the party. It's not a bad document. At least it's a structure that was able to govern our elections in 2017. So it's not a bad document, but it can just do with improvement in terms of clarity, specificity, and getting the organs right. So I think it's a good starting point, and I think the party will be assisted if they just work on this in a participatory matter, in an inclusive manner. And I will once again stress the need to have inclusivity and gender gender consideration. And this must go even into the organs, like the National Executive Council. Make sure there's some sort of gender balance there. When it comes to the National Elections Board, let's have gender balance there and inclusivity. So for instance, I don't know how many PWDs you have in your National Elections Board as currently constituted. We need to have those considerations in place. So as we do this, let us be alive, because we want to reflect to the society that we're a party yenye inajali kila mtu. So we like everyone, we include everyone. So let's reflect it in our structures and organs, even as we proceed. And you see, the National Election Board can be as big as the branch elections board. So we can show that, yes, we have them at the branch level, we have them at the ward level. We have so many opportunities to include people into. So let's be inclusive. And especially for the marginalized and minority groups. Within every county, we have a group that's either marginalized or a minority. So let's find a way of wrapping them into the mainstream. So I think that's good. Rahab mentioned good issues around strengthening the party and finding a way of supporting women. And I think that's just emphasized in further saying about how we can have women on board. So I think those are some of the considerations we can have. And I think you've raised very, very good points, everyone, in terms of this. And I just want to thank you. The idea here was to come up with an agreement that we need to improve this document, and I think that's already taken. And I think the other side of the consideration is that we have to make it open and participatory for all. So let's move towards that. And I thank you all. Unless there are other questions, I will be handing back.
Okay, thank you, Rosalind. I think Koche is back.
Okay, let's listen to Koche.
Let me give him to say something. Yes.
Hello?
Koche, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, can
you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so
yes,
I apologize. I bumped into a meeting that forced me to step aside a bit. But I want to say thank you so much, Odede. I have taken key note of all the presentation that you have done. That is the ones that you did yourself and the one for the CCM. I think I would recommend as a way forward from where I sit is that I'm requesting that you give us in soft copy, hard copy, not the soft copy, you send us the document that you did, and we are going to form a small committee that will be able to brush off, look at the suggestions that have already come on the floor, so that we can be able to make a very rich document based on the knowledge and the information that I've received today. Which case, again, once we have done, we will submit to our members so that they can be able to verify and to give us their more updates. The reason I'm saying this is because I am alive to the fact that CCM has the best opportunity in 2022. I am aware that we are going to get as many candidates from all levels, all the way from the governor to the ward level. And the earlier we put our house to order, the better. And therefore, I want to promise that we are going to work with a technical committee to relook into the several suggestions and proposals that have been brought. We will be able to enrich our document and come up with a very good document that is going to assure and give confidence to our members that 2022 primaries is going to be free, fair nomination. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Koche. Thank you very much. I think that is a very elaborative response. For now, let me take back to Maureen. Maureen, before I give my closing remarks. Maureen?
Thank you so much, Beth, for the good moderation of the session. I'd also like to thank everyone for finding time to attend this meeting so that you can discuss your party's internal election and nomination rules. We do not take that for granted. I would also like to thank Ms. Roslyn Odede for facilitating this meeting and taking you party members of CCM through your documents and highlighting the various gaps and typos that are in the documents. And I hope that the same has been taken up by your party leaders and that you will get a chance to amend your documents so that come 2022, will not be rushing at the last minute to have your documents in order. Otherwise, from here in CMD Kenya, we'd like to say asante sana and have a lovely day. And we hope that we can continue to engage. Thank you so much. Bet, maybe you can just close it off for us now.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know whether Rosalyn has something to add, or Rosalyn, do you have something to add?
No, not quite. Just that I want to thank all of you. You are a very engaging audience, and I thank you. And I quite admire your party, and I wish you well going forward. Asante sana, and have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thank you very much. Any member wish to say something before we close the meeting, or don't want to leave anyone?
Yeah, maybe I can add something.
Yes.
Yeah, I would want to request our party members to the many members who would wish to be aspirants in 2022 to begin warming up away in advance. I think we are going to do a lot of even more, in-house civic education on the several areas. I think we are going to partner even with ORTP, IBC, CMD going forward so that we prepare our members way in advance. The other thing that I would wish to inform them is that I think we are going to be rolling up on a bit the membership recruitment across. So let all our members be alive to the fact that now we are changing the gear. 2022 is 18 months to go, and I think we are equal to the task. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Koche. This time now, let me say thank you very much, all the members who participated. Thank you very much, CMD, for organizing for us this event. Thank you very much, Rosalyn, for taking us through our nomination rules. And we have identified the gaps. And actually, we promise that we are going to rectify. so that next time as we meet, we'll now be giving you a proper document. As we said, we are going to form a committee that will go through the document. Otherwise, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate the CMD, Rosalind, and all our members for participating in these discussions today. Otherwise, we say thank you. And at this time, let me now declare the meeting as closed. Thank you, thank you, thank you, member.
Asanteni na kwaherini.
Thank you.
Kwaheri,
Bye.
kwaheri,
Thank you
kwaheri,
so much and
kwaheri.
goodbye.
Salamia Tracy, and thank you for hosting her.